It is Brew over Blue. It's Thursday. Hope everybody's doing okay out there, staying safe. And I am absolutely delighted to say joining me for this edition is Everton's greatest captain, our most successful captain. It's Kevin Ratcliffe. Kevin, thanks very much for coming on.
No problem.
Not
doing too much.
Yeah, like us all. Before we get into everything in general, before we hit record there, you just showed it off there. We've got to talk about the mug you've got. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, retro text or something it is, and
so it's effectively
they've done a Bayern Munich one, and then they've got the Bayern Munich one. Then they've got all the lads on it as well, and I think you can get it in all sorts of whatever you ask for. I think they can do something by all accounts, but they do an individual one as well if you want. But this is one. They actually sent me a few biscuits with it as well, but they've gone.
If anyone wants to send one to us, it's absolutely fine as well. I'll have some biscuits in it. But so it's got the CFAX of the 3-1 against Bayern Munich on one side and pictures of all the lads on the other.
Then it's got a picture of all the team that played, all plus Howard. So there's 12 figures.
Is there anyone on there who missed? Anywhere on there who missed out? He might be a bit annoyed that they missed out on that 11.
No, I think it's just the team that played.
So
obviously that's what they've gone on. There's no like Alan Harper, Kev Rich, who were part of that squad. But it looks like the 11 that played. I don't even think there was a sub in that game, was there?
Yeah. I think you're right.
We made a sub. Yeah, which is quite remarkable, really, when you think about it.
Yeah,
how the game changed. That these days you bring on a sub and the sub changes games, doesn't it? And the better the team you are, the more chance you've got of changing the game with the subs.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I told my dad yesterday I was going to be speaking to you today, Kevin. He was dead excited, saying, ask him this, ask him that. You'll probably be watching this and probably going to kill me for speaking about your mug. You've got on about all the great successes you've had of Everton. He's probably watching this going, what are you talking about? We'll get on to that later.
Yeah. All the things I've done and then you're asking me about.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll get on to that later, obviously, in that regards. But first and foremost, I think everybody out there, every Evertonian out there will want to know how you doing, how you finding things at the moment.
Yeah, I'm finding it okay. I mean, I've been stuck in Spain and just got back after being there for 8 weeks. So my wife broke her foot, second day in the trip.
Sorry to hear that,
8th of March we went. 10th of March she fell off some step ladders and fractured 3 bones in her foot. So we've been self-isolated since then. She weren't going out the apartments and couldn't get a certificate to fly to start with, so changed the flights for April, and then obviously that was looking like no chance of taking off. In fact, they shut Malaga airport, so we then had a flight. We were supposed to go back out again in May, so we had a flight coming back on the 15th, so we kept the 15th flight to come back, but that looks nowhere near either. So we changed it. I think it was 3 flights a week coming out of Gibraltar.
Okay.
But the prices were ranging anything from 400 quid to about £2,000 each. So, if you've got your own apartment, you can stay in the apartments. You've got to do the same here. You couldn't go out. In fact, it was a lot stricter there. So we have all the amenities, TV and all that sort of stuff, British TV. So that it was quite fine staying there. And then we got back Sunday. But we had to fly into Heathrow and our car was at Manchester Airport. So the good thing about the Manchester Airport one, the meet and greet at Manchester Airport had actually waived all fees because they had something like 300, nearly 400 cars waiting to be picked up. So, it's a bit of an ordeal, but we're glad we're back now. I mean, apparently you've had better weather than what we've had in Spain.
It's been good, but it's been dead frustrating though, as you can imagine. I'm sure it was the same for you guys there. Yeah.
The frustrating part about it would have been in Spain if it was nice. You couldn't go anywhere and enjoy it anyway. So that was the good thing. You stayed in whatever. So know that it wasn't too good outside. Then you couldn't try to get out because you couldn't even go for a walk there. You didn't have that sort of, exercise right to go and exercise for an hour. The furthest you could go, maybe the bins, to drop your bin off.
Yeah, probably gets quite boring after a while, that as well, going back and forth to the bin, I
Well, I
imagine.
did.
But
Well, when you do 76 episodes of The Sopranos, and then you find out the ending's not what you want it to be.
oh, did you not like the ending?
Or
I quite like the ending.
Well, I read up on it, and there was a writers' strike, wasn't there, in that period after 208, 210, and they were going to do another series. So obviously he's not got killed. Then he fell out with whoever the writers were, or the producers, or that one of the lot. That is it, David Gandolfi or James Gandolfi?
James Gandolfi,
yeah. James, yeah. And he fell out with them, a bit of a contract dispute, and then he died in 2013. So they weren't going to make another series then, were they?
No.
I think they were going to try and make a film, but I was a bit disappointed in the end, because it left it to your imagination of what happened. So when you've done 76 of them right the way through, you start thinking, well, what else are you going to watch? So I started watching that Ozark, but only got
on my list.
half an hour into it, and I wasn't really, didn't bite me, and say, oh, I want to watch the next one. So we'll have to try and get into something else. We've done most of the things that I've never done Killing Eve. That would have been, I suppose, good. But I tried watching that. When I started watching that when it first came out, I didn't get it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a drama, if it was a comedy, or what. I just didn't get it. So when you don't get something. But if you want to watch a good one, the good one was A Stranger.
I've not seen that one
yet. It's a Netflix one. Yeah, it's British made, and it's really good. About 8, I think there's only 8 series, 8 episodes, so it's not bad. Always leaves you wanting to, see the next.
What's the next one? Yeah. A bit of a cliffhanger.
So many twists in it, and it's sending you off in different ways, and then it comes together at the end. Pretty good.
Yeah, of course, Killing Eve starring top toffee Jodie Comer as well. Another reason to watch it. But it's interesting you mentioned The Sopranos there. I've just started listening to a podcast, which is, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, but it's Michael Imperioli who plays Chris and Steve Schaefer who plays Bobby Bacala, and they're sort of going back and watching every episode and having a conversation about it after each one. So it sort of made me want to go back and watch it all again. So I'm, sort of watching episodes.
He reminds you, the Chrissy in it. He reminds you of so many different people in life that you've come across or sort of seen. I put him up there with the lead singer from Depeche Mode. I think that. Oh, hold on a minute, he's acting now. That'd be a good podcast if you want a really good podcast. To listen to is The Long Man, and his name, the lad who does it, he used to play football, Owen Tudor-Jones.
I've heard of this.
He's had some really good interviews with like ex-players, and I'll tell you which one I listened to the other day. Was Ellis James?
Oh,
he does one with Danny Gabardon.
Hilarious, isn't he?
And Ewan Roberts. And they interviewed Simon Davis, who used to play for Everton, obviously, and Tottenham. That's a great, listen to the way that he fell out of love with football, and now he's back in coaching at Peterborough. It was really interesting. But they've done plenty of good ones. A good one is with the lad Neil Taylor from. In fact, it's that good they've done 2. So and the contacts that he had because he's played with these guys. And he's quite a good. I mean, he's a present. Like he's some sort of presenter on S4C now. Is your Owen? I work with him on a Saturday sometimes. We travel together, but they're really good. I'm not just saying that because he's my friend, but they're really good, interesting. He gets a little bit more because he's played with them and knows them. He gets a little bit more out of them.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Ellis James there as well. One of my favourite comedians and one of my people who talk about football in general. He's got such a refreshing view on the game. His love for Swansea City is fantastic.
Yeah, once you know him, he does get a little bit too much. He knows everything.
Yeah,
he knows everything. Oh,
See,
God.
I only listen to him once for an hour a week on the podcast. You see, so that's it. That's it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
But
did you listen to that podcast with him and Gabstier and
yeah,
Ewan?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's his encyclopedia on football is unbelievable, especially Welsh football. He's just unbelievable in going back sort of 20 years, 25, even further back. He'll know and he'll mention things that, well, how does he know? That he wasn't even alive.
Yeah.
So he's really sort of clued up on it.
There you go. Pardon TV recommendations from Kevin Ratcliffe to start off. Well, let's have a chat about Everton then. And yeah. Okay, my dad will absolutely kill me when he watches this, Kev. Honestly, he'll be annoyed at me. But yeah, let's this is the
life
time.
Than football.
Of course there is, especially as this time is showing us. But I suppose at this time of year in particular, you must spend a lot of time reflecting on the 80s and what's been going on. And I think more than ever, the club have done really well in putting out videos and reflection. Obviously, we've had the
it seems to be the in thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to be the in thing. I did speak to somebody the other day, and they said there's, what is it, 30 odd years, isn't it, for the game against QPR?
Yeah.
At 35 years, I think. And they were saying there's not much footage. And what footage they've got is not great.
Yeah.
So, when you think they have a goal from every angle these days, don't they? And most probably find something to cancel it out with. But it's, I'm not one for, on this day. It's only recently, because I've been on Twitter, that I've actually known this. That, this day was the day that we beat QPR to win the league and blah, 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 whatever. It's never really, it seems like maybe 10 years ago, not 30 odd years ago, that's a thing. That's a scary thing about it, is that it was that long ago. And I don't know if it's today. Is it so many years since Wimbledon game?
It is. Yeah.
We beat them 3-2 after being 2-0 down. And do you know what? I remember that game in the fact that I think I was at Derby County, and believe it or not, I was playing snooker because we had a game the next day at Derby, and I was playing snooker with Mark Pembridge, and I kept going out the room to try and find out the score. And it was coming through that we were 2-0 down, and I was like, oh my God, we're going down. And that was like, and then I seen footage of it today, and I didn't realise that the Bullens Road was getting done, wasn't it? There was nobody in the Bullens Road, and it was a building site. So atmosphere must have been.
Oh, it was the Park End, wasn't it? Of course, yeah.
Park End, sorry, not the Bullens Road. The Park End, and I'm just like, and then I look at the team, and I'm thinking, how's that team actually got in the position they were?
Yeah.
Anders Limpar, Dave Watson. I think it was Gary Ablett, Unzi, Nevin goal,
Graham Stewart.
And I'm thinking, Graham Stewart, and then you've got Tony Kotsky and Paul Ryder out front. Now, what's going on there? And then I looked on the bench, and there was Mike Walker.
Forgot about that. Yeah, I suppose that's the thing about those two relegation games in the 90s, is that you look at that side and you think, how did they get in that position? And you sort of look at the one a few years later. Yeah, and you look at the one a few years later, and then you think about them. How did they stay up? It's very similar memories, very similar days, but two completely different sides, really, in terms of quality.
You would have said that team against Wimbledon was a better team than the other side, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was in the relegation. And you just but it just shows you when you get in a rut. I don't think the ground must have helped. Having three sides. It must have been quite desolate to sort of play and experience no fans behind the goal. So that could have been playing a part. But once you get into a rut, then it's hard to get it. It's like winning. When you get in the habit of winning, you win.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the one thing I wanted to ask you, you said there, you're not really one for on this day and stuff like that. And do you know what? I'll bring this back to that's Sopranos podcast, because I was listening to that, and they were saying at the start of it that
your dad will kill you.
He's gonna be fuming at me. He's gonna be absolutely fuming at me. But I'm enjoying myself. You seem to be enjoying yourself. We'll go with it. It's fine. Yeah. They both said, Michael Imperioli and Steve Schirripa, that they hadn't watched the show since it came out. They said this is the first time they watched it back, and they were finding nuances and they were enjoying it. And with all the stuff that's been going on recently in regards to Howard's Way and regards to the On This Day stuff, is that something you did in regards to your career? Were there times where you just sat there and maybe you had like a Sunday afternoon and you didn't really, have anything to do, and something triggered your memory that you go back and watch highlights from a certain game, or you'd go and read I don't know what you've got in terms of memorabilia, but you get a shirt of a particular game or a newspaper, or
as in watching it, I've not got the Betamax video anymore, so it's hard to have a lot of VHS as well. Yeah. But no, the only time I sort of started reflecting on one or two things was when I left Shrewsbury, and I sort of stayed in and watched things that I'd never had time to watch, and just sat there for a couple of days watching stuff, which was quite nice. Yeah. To really, reflect on things. But as in cup finals, and I did have a tape deck then, but video recorder or whatever, but not really. No, I've never sat there and looked back, and now it's even, if I haven't even got a DVD player now, so it's the world's changing. You don't need as many. I mean, you used to have stacks of stuff, didn't you? Hi-fi system and everything with amplifiers, stacked up on one another in the corner. I've still got mine, but you don't need all that stuff now, to get a quality sound. So it's, I've never really looked back at cup finals or whatever that we played in. I wouldn't even know where to start to look to see them anyway.
Yeah, and what's it been like then recently? Like I said, with the Howard's Way film, which is fantastic. Going back over it all again in more detail, with being on Twitter and seeing a lot of this stuff recently. I mean, do you see the footage and you speak to the lads and you reflect on it all and think it's very much as you remember, or do you watch those videos and pick up little nuances?
I think it's nice to know what other people were going through and what they thought. Like Inchy and people like that you haven't seen for years. It's interesting what they were thinking and what their thoughts were. But I've only watched it once. If I was an actor, I don't know, I'd actually watch myself. TV. I get a little bit embarrassed about it, oh God, what have you said that for, or this and the other. But interesting. It's it does bring back things. I think, like everything, it could have been done better. But that's only after it's all been done. There's only so much you can get in. I think he's done a tremendous job in the way that he's put football, he's put music together. Because that's what the country was about, and Liverpool especially was about in the 80s, was football. And you look back and people will say, well, how was it so great? There wasn't that many watching games then, but you've got to remember, people couldn't afford to. There's a big depression going on, and that people weren't out of work, they couldn't find work, and we used to get so many followers on a Saturday. I'm sure they were all bunking trains and bumming lefts from everybody and not even paying in. I'm sure they weren't, because I remember us going to matches, and I think we were the first people to invent kit men, because they didn't realise that football club could have at least 20 or 30 kit men. It was just the supporters waiting for us to get off the bus and carry our bags so they could get in for nothing, and they'd get into the tunnel, and then they were off into the ground. And I can't remember how many times that happened. We had to be very, very careful leaving tickets, who we were leaving tickets for, as in the name. So, if I was leaving stuff for my dad, I could never leave it in his name. I'd have to leave it in somebody else's name, because he'd always ask.
Yeah.
For my dad's tickets. And, they were up to all sorts of tricks to try and get in. Like I say, just carrying can I help you with the kit? Carrying the thing. So
probably because it was such a great side that people were so desperate to to watch us and to
I think it was a
sample this.
way out. Yeah, I think it was a way out for people as well. Not like I say, not just the football, but the music as well. The city was thriving in a different way, in one way, and then depriving in another. And you had the riots and things like that coming about. So it was difficult times. So how we did get that many supporters in anyway, but we didn't get many full houses in both seasons that we played and won the league. It was.
I think that was a trend in football in general then, wasn't it? It seemed to be, you look at some of the attendances from any game at that point and you think, what on earth is going on? But I think it sort of feeds into what you were saying about the economic climate of the city, and particularly the Northwest at that point.
Yeah, and the game's changed now. I've looked at a couple of retro games lately, but they've been Welsh games. On BBC Wales, they have one on a Saturday afternoon, and I think last week was Wales v England at Wrexham in 1984. Mark Hughes' first game. The one after that, a couple of weeks before that, was when we beat Germany 1-0 at Cardiff Arms Park. And the big significant thing for me from then is today is the state of the pitches, the bobbles on the pitch. And I think Danny Gabidon never mentioned it when he was doing a podcast with Ellis James, and he was on about the lack of football from the back, but he never said why.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That ball, Nev rolling the ball out to you was unheard of unless it was in wide positions, because it'd be bobbling. Even if he rolled it, he'd be bobbling. And I've seen footage of Duncan McKenzie doing that little dribble against Stoke City at Goodison, and people couldn't get near him. And I looked at the pitch, and the ball was bouncing everywhere. So your better players would play in this day because it'd be a lot easier on the pitches that you're playing on. They're training on better pitches than what we played on. So, and that's why the game's quicker. And that. But it was, and you had to play a different style of football, because you had to get the ball forward early. Make the other defenders make the mistakes and not you. So.
Was that something that was drilled into you guys by Howard as well, in regards to what he said? Was he sort of somebody who had an all-encompassing ideology in regards to how he wanted that team to play, or was he happy for lads who were comfortable to play out to do it, or lads who weren't comfortable to do it? Did he sort of have individual?
I think it was times and places that you did, and when you didn't. A lot easier because it was the pass back rule was different, wasn't it? You could pass it back to the keeper. And that's one of the reasons I had 100% pass rate. It's just passing it to Nev and back and getting it back off him, just wasting time,
Imagine one of those pitch maps now.
I actually think that's the best rule that's actually come into football. The pass back rule. I think it's improved the game so much. It's changed, but he was. I would come in. It's the first time I would actually said that he changed the way that he wanted you to defend, as in squeezing up and dropping. If you think about it, when he was there, when I actually sort of got into the side with it, me and Iggy, and then a little bit later on, after about 6 months, if you think about it, even though we weren't doing well, that back four never really changed that much. I think there was only Derek that come in for Higgy when he got injured. But other than that, the side stayed the same at the back. And I think he was quite comfortable because we took on board what he was trying to say, I think. Coaches, as in when to squeeze, when to drop. And, it was getting the keeper as well. And Nev was coming into it where he was reading the situation, because the problem you've got, if there's a big gap between your defenders and your keeper, the keeper's got to be in the right position.
Sure.
And the last thing you want is he's got to know how quick you are or how slow you are if you're going to get to the ball.
Yeah.
Or does he need to get there? And me and Nev had a great understanding with that, because usually I was the last man of defence anyway. And getting back, and he knew that if I was going to get there or not. So that was Howard. It's just getting the right blend, I think, in midfield that changed everything. Once he cracked that, Howard, we just went on.
Yeah.
Once he got the midfield right. And I think sometimes you've got to be a little bit fortunate and lucky in whatever you do as a manager. Whichever manager you are, there's a certain amount of luck. And then it just turns around and you just wonder, how the hell did we get in that position?
Yeah.
In the bottom 6. And then that year we're actually getting into 2 cup finals.
Yeah, the rest is history, so to speak, in that regard.
Yeah, so close to maybe the manager losing his job.
Yeah.
And if he does lose his job, that doesn't happen.
Crazy.
Then 2 FA Cup finals, then leagues don't happen. Nothing.
Sliding doors moments, indeed. There's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. The first one you sort of touched upon there in regards to when you first broke into the team. Obviously, you came through the club's academy, got into the side. Was there a point or a game or a moment in particular where you sort of stopped being a fan and became an Everton player? I mean, was there a point where you stood at Goodison Park, or you were playing, or you were in the tunnel, where you sort of took it all in a little bit and had a look around and thought, I'm doing this now, I'm living the dream? Or was it quite a seamless transition?
Well, first and foremost, you're always a fan.
Yeah.
It's just a big bonus that you're getting actually playing and captaining. I come through the apprentice system, the old apprentice, not the academy. Academy is completely different. I don't know how many years it's over now. The apprentice system, worked for me. I quite liked it. The way that I got through it, it was tough. It's a lot tougher than what these guys get now. Yeah. As in, you're not just going in to be a footballer. You're actually cleaning boots, and it was tough. It was brutal at times. Brutal. The pressure being put on you, and the philosophy in that is high pressure, rollickings here, there, and everywhere. Things that you can't do now. Seeing what you can take, because it's no good you being soft, and then having to go out and perform in front of 40,000, and you've been mollycoddled, and then all of a sudden the ball comes to you and somebody's shouting from this top stand, "Get hold of it!"
Yeah,
with a few F words in the middle. That is, it's something else, and that's what it's in. It's there to build you up to become, tolerant to it, to get through it. And my upbringing with Colin Harvey right the way through was, it was tough, but what it was, when you look back, you realise what he was up to.
Yeah,
he's turning you into the man as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I suppose you sort of had that transition from becoming a first team player in that regard. You spent your place on the side, and then you were captain very quickly. You were captain at a young age, and what was it like for you at that age to be sort of in command, if you will, of a side that had so many big personalities within the dressing room? Was it hard to make that? I mean, you said that you're always a fan and that transition was quite easy, but there must have been some challenges from making that transition to being first team player, young player, cementing yourself in the side, to being captain of the side.
Yeah, well, I was captain right the way through, really, as in a youth team. I was a captain, and then with the reserves, and then with the first team. But I think I played in the first team, and I think Stevie Mack, when Stevie Mack was with us, got a captaincy. I think he was one of the youngest captains to be of Everton until I think Tom Davis become the youngest captain. Yeah. So I think Stevie had gone and everything, and there was a new influx of players and everything. And then I remember getting the armbands at one game when Iggy wasn't playing, pre-season game, and I was just looking around me, sort of saying, what have they done wrong?
Yeah.
With them lads, I was 22, and these lads were like 28. So maybe in the long run, Howard was thinking more about the future rather than the present time, whereas them players wouldn't be around. Your David Johnsons, they weren't part of his plan. I don't think long term. They were part of his plan just to, get things going and then turn it around. And it certainly, ended up that way as well, because a lot of them players that were there when we won the title and went to the FA Cup finals, they weren't around. They'd gone. Howard had sort of changing things around slowly. Yeah. Bringing in your Kevin Sheedys, your Alan Harpers and that. Trevor Stevens, and just add into it, But Reedy wasn't even a first teamer then.
Yeah,
he never got in until the year that we got to the cup final in the November. He never really broke into the side. Coventry City at home, he got an opportunity to come on as sub, and I don't think he missed a game after that. And if he did, it would only be 1 or 2. So he wasn't part of that. And you sort of say, looking at him, you're looking at Andy. If they were there, 6 months earlier, who's to say they might not have been captains, because they were captain material.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when your youngsters coming through, they've come into a side, they've accepted me as captain, but we had a few more captains on that field.
Yeah.
Them two, and I think when you've got somebody like Kevin Sheedy and Graham Sharp and people like that who are strong-minded, they didn't just sit back and take everything. They had an opinion. Brace comes in, he has an opinion as well. So, all that makes, it's managing it as a manager, managing it as a captain, but it's easy when you've got other captains on the field as well and in the changing room.
And just the final thing on that, obviously the armband emboldened you and improved you as a footballer. In the dressing room and on the training pitch and in all those, things we couldn't see as supporters and Evertonians couldn't see, did that change you in any way? Did you feel as though you had to act differently now you were the captain, maybe show a bit more maturity, be a louder voice in the dressing room? No, you just carried on being the same?
No, I was... before the game, I was most probably one of the quietest people in the changing room. As they say these days, focusing on the game.
Yeah.
I don't think we use that word "focused" in them days. There must have been another word for it, because there's words for some, the high press, things like that. There was loads of different terminology when you're coming up. It just seems a modern world with modern language. But no, I was dead quiet in the changing room, sort of thinking about the game and thinking about who I was playing against, what he does good, what strong points has he got, and really, thinking about dominating who I was playing against, really. And I think that was most of the lads. There was John Bailey was like the joker. Even when he wasn't playing, he'd be around. That Howard brought him in as a coach after he'd been up to Newcastle and that, and I think he'd been to Bristol, and he brought him in and that's what he brought him in for, for that relaxation and playing the joker, really, in and around the changing room. And I think that was important. But when you've got like a team of jokers,
sure,
that's what we were. We'd always be looking for practical jokes to do on each other. Match days, maybe not as much. There might be something, but we all knew what was to be done on the pitch, and you couldn't be messing about before. What you didn't want to do, you didn't want to give the manager any ammunition to actually have a go at you after the game, or at half time, because that's what you've done before the game. So we were all sort of building up to the Saturday, just like the lads do now, I'm sure, but in a different way. You all approach games in different way, and not every one person is the same. Everybody's different. You listen to different music, and unfortunately, we had to listen to Nev's music. And that was,
Surely, as captain, you could have said, "Turn that off. Don't fancy that."
It didn't bother me. I just used to laugh. But just used to laugh at him, sort of, because he's a wind-up merchant, and seeing how far he can go before somebody reacts.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant stuff. Brilliant. Great memories. Kev, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for taking the time out to have a chat with us. And listen to that Sopranos podcast and let me know what you think, and I'll do the same with The Stranger.
What was their reaction of it all? Did they? Was it based on a true family, or?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It was all, but it's well worth a listen. Honestly, it's for your hour of exercise or outdoor activity a day.
Yeah,
it's called Talking Sopranos. It's well worth a go.
Talking Sopranos, and they talk about each episode.
Yeah, they go through each episode, and it would have been great for you watching it recently, to listen to it. They're only on like episode 6 currently, but they're doing them quite regular.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to go through every episode.
Oh no. Maybe give it a couple of years.
And have they done anything? Have they done anything since? So
I don't know. I think it's just sort of made them for life, hasn't it? But
Yeah.
they're very
So
typecast
because
now, aren't they? In that regard.
yeah, you look at them and you're thinking, oh, they can't really do too much. But I just thought it was very interesting because it wasn't just about mafia; it was about home life and
Yeah.
the
It's
way.
great.
But the one thing about these mafia stories, they always make them out to be heroes.
Yeah. Well, they
And
talk about that, innit? Yeah.
they're thugs.
Yeah.
They're absolute thugs and mentalists. They're just like,
Anti-hero, yeah. He's an anti-hero, isn't
yeah,
he? Terry Soprano, yeah. But
yeah. You're just like, you are an absolute nutcase, you know.
yeah. But this has been wonderful chat. Kev, as I said, thanks very much for taking the time out. But thanks for everyone who's watched this as well. Hope you're enjoying the videos here on the Blue Room during the lockdown. Do check out all of our other content, and we'll speak to you again very soon.
All right, mate. Don't